Will be eventually.
The hard thing is, though, you can't, of course, totally, you can't go home and go to bed because then you mess up your sleep schedule.
Right. So it's still just be a long day, 2 days. It's
So-
still Sunday.
You know what I'm going to do, too?
Sure.
That sound is going to drive me crazy. I'm going to turn down on that little volume knob down there,
Okay.
just turn that all the way down.
Sure.
I think that's what that is. Or is
All
it this
better.
one, Kelly?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, so Wayne filled in today. We talked about a bunch of different things. Let me get to you, family. And Wayne, what's a topic or discussion that stands out to you the most in what we talked about today?
Well, I loved your conversation from James. That was really good. But also, as it applies to how men think through their emotional status. And then even I saw a link between that and how we as men are going to interact with this whole topic about RZIM. I think that we need to caution our hearts and say, just because I'm angry doesn't mean that needs to be my only emotional response. So if I can truly have a circumspect or a spirit-led response to the work of RZIM, do I stand in the place of judge and executioner? When I stand before the Lord, I need to have a circumspect response. Now, what do I do with all the anger? That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, and that's what he's referring to is something I picked up on this weekend. Walk Worthy Men's Conference was awesome. Hope you guys were there. Ladies, sorry. But renews in September. We had a great discussion from a number of different pastors, but what the theme that popped out for me was this idea that Pastor Kevin James solidified when he just mentioned in passing that for men, really, negative emotions come out typically as just anger. So we are either happy or angry. I know that's been my experience in life until very recently. We just don't seem to have the emotional vocabulary to feel something else. But you talked about how much anger is not really the primary emotion, right? Is that
It's
what
a
you're saying?
secondary emotion.
Can you talk more about that?
The root the root of all of our negative emotions are always either fear, but then the root of all of our positive emotions is love. And if you look at the scriptural context, perfect love always casts out fear, and the human heart is incapable of experiencing both love and fear at the same time. It's a mutually exclusive moment. And so you either have a fear response or you're having a love response. But when fear takes its root and begins to grow in your life, then men tend to have a one-off approach to that we tend to get angry. We get ticked at life. But it's because of fear. In order to begin to identify that, we talked about this, we have to identify what is causing us fear. We need to learn to be vulnerable and explain that to the people in our lives. So our wives, but we also, Brian kept on bringing it back to our work atmosphere. Like, are we allowed in our work atmosphere to have vulnerable moments? Well, sometimes that's not wise, but other times, if you want to have a good relationship with your boss, sometimes you need to be a little vulnerable and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this because.
Or I'm afraid that this is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Or I'm afraid. I mean, it's a scary thing to do, but to me, that phrase for men's a hard one.
I see this happening, and it causes me to be fearful because. And then it's an opportunity for a boss or a direct report to look at you and say, well, here's why we're doing that, and begin to lay on the foundation for the direction of the organization.
Couple quick good mornings to do. Rachel, always good to see you, sister. We've got Mike here. Yay. Hey, Mike. Mike's right there. We had a technical glitch today with our stream, so he and Sarah, who's in, she's in El Salvador, right? No. Where's, Kelly, do you remember? Where's Sarah? Ecuador.
Ecuador, yeah.
I knew there was an E in there.
I was like,
So she couldn't listen online either. We're working on that. Lord willing, that app will be fixed
Good to
soon.
see you too, Mike.
A couple of happy birthdays to me. Thank you, David, of course. Team Bryant Worldwide, obviously. Happy birthday. Thank you. No problem. Uncle Jeff is here, my wife's uncle, Uncle Jeff Leach. He said, how come I didn't remember we have the same birthday, Brian? Uncle Jeff, the reason for that is because people born on February 27th are so other-focused that we don't even think about our own birthday.
Right.
We don't draw these connections. We're so busy loving other people and caring We kind of lose sight of little details like that.
Right.
So we're just generally above average.
I love it.
If he does say so himself.
I'm just saying. So, how often do you see men who, generally speaking, don't even know that they're expressing anger when it's really something else?
Say it again?
How often are you encountering men that anger is what they're expressing, but they don't realize it's something else? Is that really common?
Well, I approach it from the fact that it's true. And do I hear men admit it? I see men react to that. And I see lots of head nodding. But because men are who they are, they're not always jumping in to volunteer that type of information. But it is such a biblical context. It's obviously how God knows men's hearts are wired, because he constantly instructs men, love your wives, do not be harsh with them. Nurture your children, do not be harsh with them. When you are worshiping, lift up holy hands, do not be angry. So, I mean, there's tons of pointing to men saying, be holy, stop the anger.
Yeah. Or reserve it for when you're actually angry.
And be angry and sin not.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk with my wife a lot about this. Are we allowed to be angry? Yes. Of course we should be angry, because there's things to be angry about. If we see injustice, we should interact. We should jump in. We should have deep emotions about what is the injustice and why can we interact. But just because, we brought this up earlier, just because a teacher treated my child poorly is not necessarily a reason for me to get angry. It might be an opportunity for me to identify, why am I angry? What did I expect? I heard a great quote. Expectations are premeditated resentments.
That's good.
Expectations are premeditated resentments. In other words, every time I have an expectation for somebody else, I am giving myself a very clear highway to be mad at them. And I honestly need to adjust, what are my expectations? Can I align them with the Holy Spirit so that when my expectations are not met, I'm allowed to be angry. I'm allowed to be angry that I'm angry about Ravi Zacharias. Why? Because a righteous standard was offended. I'm allowed to be angry about that. But am I allowed to go out of control? No, I need to be spirit driven.
By the way, good morning, Tammy. Good to see you as always.
Hi, Tammy.
First Lady Anita Morrison. First Lady, good to see you. If I'm not mistaken, didn't you have a birthday? I thought we share a birthday, don't we? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to me and Uncle Jeff, who loves the subject matter today as well, which is fantastic. He's watching from Minnesota right now, where it's on earlier, actually an hour earlier. Yeah, it's something, Jeff, that a lot of guys got to talk about, and we don't. I think so. What's the solution for a guy, Wayne Morgret, for Man in the Mirror, that is not really recognizing their ability, like they're not able to recognize emotions in their life other than I'm angry? What do you do?
If I'm talking one-on-one with a guy, I have started running off. I printed off a really good emotions wheel. That ties everything down into the love side and the fear side, but then love is split out into joy, happiness, peace, contentment, but the fear side is split into anger, wrath, malice, rage, all the biblical words, and our goal is to say, I feel angry, but of all the other options, which one most describes why I'm angry? And you can pull it out and say, well, I'm frustrated. Well, what am I frustrated about? Now, if I'm asking the question, what am I frustrated about? I was expecting them to do something that they didn't do. Now we've switched the topic from my anger to what were my expectations. If I can identify that it was a righteous expectation, I'm allowed to be angry, but what am I going to let my anger do? Like, what am I going to be able to say? I'm going to do this, and will Jesus be happy with me when I've done that? So am I going to fire up an angry email, or are we going to ask questions and try to understand? Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Our anger makes us drive forward to be understood. And quite frankly, we need to be patient and defer our anger until we understand better.
And I would say that if you aren't able to just snap out of it pretty easily, you got to go get counseling.
Yeah.
Counselors can help you figure out, guys, what you're feeling.
It's what they do.
It really is what they do, and I advocate for it, but it wasn't until I went to counseling myself that I was confronted with how little I'm really aware of my own emotions. I shared this on the air this morning. I'm very left-brained, so I would have the tendency, when I'm talking to my counselor, they'd say, "So Brian, how do you feel about that?" And I would tell her what I think about it. I'd go like, "Well, I think it's really interesting that I keep struggling with it." No, Brian, I don't care what you think about this. I'm asking you, how do you feel about it? Stop telling me what you think. And I'd be dumbfounded. I'd just sit there.
It's something Mike said on his comments, and I want to underscore that. What we tell ourselves, our inside voice, often gives us our predictor about how we're going to feel about things. And so when something I learned in counseling is the things I tell myself about myself, I'm not my biggest fan. Like I'm very critical of myself, and there's things I tell myself is true about me that are the darndest things. Like, and when my counselor finally pointed out the things I say about myself, my inside voice, she called it. Once I asked the question, "Is that how God sees me?" I started to have my aha moment in counseling. Oh my goodness, my inside voice is the accuser. Like I'm speaking Satan's message into my heart and life. And if I'm speaking Satan's voice, which is going to always be fear, anger, wrath, malice, then I need to learn to preach to myself and be instant in season, out of season, reprove. Wayne, listen up. Rebuke. Stop accusing yourself, and exhort. So reprove, rebuke, exhort. Now, what is exhort? I need to start telling myself all the things that are true from Scripture about my life. I'm redeemed. I'm chosen. I'm loved. These are all things that are true about my life because of Jesus. So I speak the gospel into my life daily. As a preacher, I preach.
You
to
have
myself.
to, because if it's wickedness to call your brother a jerk, like you'd be like, "Hey, you jerk," it's the same as
Right.
murder. You're actually your self-hatred and your inner thought life is sin.
And why are guys always angry? Because we're always accusing ourselves. Like we're jerks inside.
We
our
don't
head.
tell anybody that's what we're doing, but that's what we
But
do.
we do. But we do. There's labels we put in our heart, and I just had a good talk with a friend of mine. It's time to get the goo gone out and start scrubbing our heart, which is hard. And I suggested to him that maybe his wife needs to be a part of a confession process. I feel this way. This is the label I put in my heart. And his label he put across his heart was failure. I am a failure. And I said, whoa, as long as you walk through life with the word failure on your heart, that's the kind of sticker that sticks. Like it doesn't just yank off. You have to get the goo gone out and scrub all the goo off your heart that is stuck. And then, could you please help your wife write some new stickers for your heart and stick those on? What does God write across your heart? I'm redeemed. I'm loved.
Yeah, and it's not about. I mean, it's about stopping the negative talk, but it's not telling yourself you're great. It's telling yourself Christ is great,
Humility.
and He loves you anyway.
How does Jesus see me?
So you need to see yourself as redeemed,
Great.
and that's a whole different. Like you're so loved.
Am I a failure? Yes, but I'm a failure who's been redeemed.
Yeah, that's where it comes in. And a couple of people commenting on this. Kelly brought it up. Sarah confirmed it. Our station manager came in. Greatest boss in the world. The book Unoffendable by Brant Hansen is quite good. He's a Christian radio star. The Brant and Sherry show. Don't listen to it because then you skip our show. But he's quite good, and he's a wonderful author. Unoffendable is a really, really great book, and it will help you on that. Aunt Twee is here. Twee Leach, good to see you, Aunt Twee. Always nice to see your name pop up. Mike got some deep thoughts for us here too, but yeah, I'd encourage you guys, men listening, women listening, talk to the man in your life. Guys have got to figure this out. We've got to figure out what emotions are.
Right.
And if you need help to do it, there's no shame in that.
Stare it in the face. We were given our wives for a reason. They're really smart. My wife is, and she is able to help me see my stuff a lot clearer than I'm willing to see my own stuff. And when I trust her and lean into her and trust the Holy Spirit in her life to teach me where I'm messing up, that's a humbling moment. I don't like that moment. I'm being honest, guys. I don't like that moment, but I'm always benefited by knowing who I am and what it's like for her to be across from me.
Yeah.
I'm not nice sometimes. I can be mean.
I don't
know-
believe it, but I'll take your word for it.
I don't know I'm being mean. Like, I don't think I'm being mean. I think I'm being logical. I'm being strategic. I'm helping her understand.
It is time for us to go. But Sarah says, yes, you can laugh along with the Brant and Sherry Oddcast. Yes. Brant Hansen and his colleague Sherry, they have a podcast that they call the Oddcast. It's available anywhere. But go check out Unoffendable. Excellent, excellent book. I think that's the one I read too. Josh could tell me. Isn't that the one I read?
That's so good.
He has a couple of books, but I think that's the one I read that I
Yeah.
like so much. All right, family, we got to get going. Special thanks to Wayne Morgret from Man in the Mirror. If your men's ministry needs a tune-up or a jump start or just a closer look,
Let's have coffee.
he's the guy that does that with the National Ministry Man in the Mirror. He's the rep here for Northeast Ohio, so you'd love to meet.
Yep. Yep.
Wayne
I'll
Morgret,
meet
check
you.
it out. You can look them up online or come to us,
Love
send us a
y'all.
message, whatever it is.